any questions for us, you can tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag AskTheCasters, and we'll answer a few during the game. Have two very experienced top laners, one professional, one just extremely high ELO.
Fraudulent.
No,
we got one fraud.
We definitely do.
Okay, we got two frauds. Two frauds, and one guy to carry us. He's here.
We'll have to see if that's where H2K and AHQ want to put their attention. Really no top lane bans quite yet. Olaf, Nidalee taken off the board. Tom Kench, interestingly, from support. A lot of the global pressure taken away. And, of course, westdoor's signature TF pretty much consistently banned out.
Yeah. Going to be pretty interested to see what kind of top lane priority we have. You know, speaking of champions like the Poppy, we've seen a lot more Poppy getting played, and we've even seen some teams prioritizing it very heavily, even like first rounding it, first picking it. Teams like CLG who play a lot around that. You know, what's your opinion on kind of draft order here in this meta for top lane? Are you comfortable when your team says, hey, we want you to play like a Poppy, you know, just straight up first pick, or do you feel like with the carry top lane meta, you need to be able to kind of have the ability to pick that later in the draft?
Yeah, I think if everything's up, I'm pretty okay. Like from my perspective, it's okay to trade things. Like Jayce, Rumble, Kennen are all up here. Poppy's up here too. Yeah, some teams seem to just be blinding Poppy and be fully okay with it. I guess it depends on like their style of play, like how they've been doing in scrims, whatever, and if they want to have a carry jungler and they need setup from top lane. But yeah, I think Poppy's like by far just the best tank and most stable pick in top lane. Like worst comes to worst, you fall behind a couple CS. Like the biggest two counter picks seem to be Trundle and Gnar, and even so, like Rox picked Poppy into Gnar. They lost that game, but it was like the Poppy did fine in lane and still did her job in team fight. And it's just, yeah, I think Poppy's just an overall really stable pick. You could pretty much pick it anywhere in the draft, but if all the carry top laners are up too, I'd rather just see them save a top pick for later on when they have more information.
Got the Karma first pick coming in from AHQ. Of course, the potential for a flex there. We'll see who's going to pick that one up. I'm curious to see exactly what the priority is going to be because everything is on the board. Is it going to be the Jayce that's been decently popular, the Poppy rising pick? But no attention to the top lane quite yet. Just sticking with that Alistar as the priority support.
Yeah, Alistar has been absolutely smashing in Worlds, and this champion, especially in conjunction with the Caitlyn, has been doing really well because it's actually pretty good in lane. Alistar is able to roam a lot. You have hard initiation with this champion. He brings a lot to the table. Caitlyn's actually relatively safe by herself if Alistar is roaming, and kind of the headbutt pulverize combo into traps is pretty sick as well with like, especially when people are picking stuff like Elise. If you get hit by any of that CC, it's like, what are you supposed to do?
It's like Nami Bubble too. Yeah, it's all the one CC lands, then everyone follows up and puts another thing down is really popular. Like Poppy's really good for that too. The Albis knocks like Poppy into a Nivea wall thing was really crazy to see. Yeah.
It's seeming like because of that, Mark Treads are kind of, you know, becoming more of a big ticket item. I've even seen some games where mid laners and stuff are buying like, they're buying Sork boots and they're having to sell them to get Merc Treads because it's just like, oh god, there's just too much CC.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when a Malzahar's in game, everyone needs, like, QSS is a must-buy pretty much, so it is good to see people adapting their item builds to the situation, like, properly, I guess, in game.
Interesting to see too. I mean, you talk about all the chain CC potential. So far we have a little bit on AHQ. Mostly we just have the mobility coming in from the Sivir, from the Karma there as well, and a lot more kind of hard engage options coming in for H2K. I'm curious what Vander is going to do with this Alistar, but now as we approach second rotation, they have the luxury of last picking either a top laner or a mid laner. Now, choosing between priority on the westdoor lane or the ZIV lane, who is it more important to give a winning matchup to?
I think personally, like I would give it to Ryu if you're thinking just about that. But if they want to hide their top lane pick, I think if there's some flexibility there. But especially when you're double targeting on westdoor, you're putting him off stuff that he's already comfortable on. I personally would prioritize going for a last pick on your mid laner Ryu. Obviously, they're not going to decide to do that. But I mean, when you take away the TF, when you take away the Malzahar has kind of been westdoor's crutch. You know, he's been playing that almost exclusively when it's up. And with that being gone, I feel like there was an opportunity for H2K to perhaps exploit that 1v1 if they gave Ryu a counter pick, especially because he likes assassins.
Does really love him. We're going to have to see what AHQ pick up. I get excited about hover-overs. It's like the caster taboo, but I'm always curious to see who can play Aurelion Sol the best. Hasn't been westdoor. But Ryu does pick up his hands on his Ryze, potentially a very powerful champion. We have seen it flexed once or twice since the rework. I can't imagine that we'll see it here, but already we have the Rumble lock-in in the top lane for ZIV. He had success on this one before. Looks like he's going to take it once again.
So, you know, looking at this draft, Zig, like, what do you think they're saving this last pick for? Do you think there's a possibility of some flex here, something actually different in this matchup, like something new? Or do you think that they just want to kind of get an advantageous edge of this, maybe like Kennen into the Rumble or something like that?
I think it's just going to be like a Gnar or Jayce. It has, like for the damage balance, it looks like it has to be a physical champion, or they're going to lean towards a physical champion, and Gnar, Jayce both have pretty stable matchups into the Rumble. You early item Hex Shrinker if you have to, and both of them like can kind of take long range trades. Oh, if it's Irelia, that eventually is a winning matchup for the Irelia because split pushers generally can punish the Rumble, like champions that can all in him. And it's just early lane is a little hard, and like team fight, the Rumble probably will be able to contribute more. But
yeah, I mean, you're gonna get pushed in pretty heavily early, but I also look at this team. Irelia, I think, makes sense to leave his last pick because this is something we're talking about, right? If they want to have some flexibility, if they want to try something a little bit different, then you can use that Irelia to perhaps get a 1v1 advantage, especially in conjunction with Jankos, who's a really aggressive player on the Elise, right? Yeah. Probably the best top lane kind of diver as far as that goes, but it is going to be Jayce. Yeah, I actually think this Elise Jayce pair is really, really strong. Like the long range damage is insane. I had this Elise gank my lane in solo queue. Just landed one cocoon, full combo with challenging smite. All I had to do was QE and I got a free kill. It's like the Elise just found him behind his tower. The enemy top laner face check. So it's like the long range damage is really, really good for the pair here. And it's split damage too, both physical and magical. So
I mean, it really does feel like H2K may be all in on the early game. That's exactly what the analyst stats recommended as well. You've got Caitlyn, who can control the early game to a certain degree. They are against a double range matchup, but when we look top, it's not really a more powerful duo we can imagine for early ganks than this Jayce Elise. Just so much raw damage. You know, Jayce with the multitude of abilities. I feel like ZIV is going to have to play this one on the back foot.
Yeah, he will. And I mean, I do think H2K's early game is pretty good. Obviously, Caitlyn's kind of known as a lane bully and so on and so forth, but they have good scaling. I think Jayce scales pretty well, like really well actually, quite late in the late game. I think that Caitlyn is good late game, and Ryze is a champion that definitely has a lot of room to scale. So I don't think by any means are they like outclassed if this game goes late, but you know, if you were to give it to one side of this matchup, do you think it is more of a Jayce favorite matchup? Can Jayce still have the ability to kind of all in and get the advantages in the side lanes?
Yeah, I think Jayce eventually will all in, like, just physical champions by nature seem to have like more all-in potential compared with magic damage champions, especially with the way that physical champions itemize. Like, you can get his Zanyas on the Rumble, but it feels like once the Jayce gets a Maw, like, you can only do so much burst damage. He also heals, so like in the straight split push war, the Jayce should win eventually. But I think both teams have like a pretty good team fight comp. Like, at least H2K has Alistar, so even if they're all in on early game, like, they have AoE CC and everything. And yeah, it seems like AHQ has a lot of setup too with List Rumble and Sivir Karma.
Yeah, List Rumble, Sivir Karma, RekSai, a lot of go buttons on the team, a lot of ways to start the fights. We are now into our second game of the day, the first match of the day for both AHQ and H2K. Both these teams really needing to find a win, trying to secure their way out of groups. And I want to talk about the early laning phase. We said that Jayce can look for these all-ins, that he has the superior itemization here. So how does ZIV need to play this matchup? What is going to be the key here in the early game?
So in this matchup, the Rumble usually opens... Rumble opens E usually, or at least the ones I see in solo queue. And like, if I'm playing the Rumble side, I'd want to open E, because if you open Q, Jayce can just keep walking up and auto-attacking you on the first wave. It's also... Rumble's Q like gets a lot stronger at level 4 or 5 when you have 2 or 3 points in it, and you can take better trades then with your W and E spell as well. But early on, I think it's best for the Rumble just to pull lane with E, get as many last hits as you can, because range versus melee, you're going to take auto attacks per minion you go for.
ODOAMNE getting a bit cheeky, poking his head in here, and we'll lay down some vision to see the early jungle pathing. So may help in the early laning phase as well, but as you mentioned, the Q. So not going to be able to trade well at this level 1. Does this just flat out give the advantage to ODOAMNE?
I mean, I think what he's trying to do here is obviously just get the push, right? If you get Q, you're trying to shove your opponent in early. And what exactly he's trying to accomplish from that, I'm not 100% sure, based on, you know, changing from the E. But he's obviously trying to get the push. He's trying to shove his opponent in under turret and perhaps try to put ODOAMNE in a position where he could maybe miss some CS. If you could get an early level 2, shove in your opponent, that you can have that ability to kind of harass with your E.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just harder in this matchup in the Jayce Rumble side.
I agree.
Yeah, Jayce is just ranged, so he'll get the poke autos on you. ODOAMNE gave a little fake leash there. I guess it's he didn't take any damage or anything, but just to throw off his opponents, because Elise did end up standing bot side. I think, yeah, H2K will probably be looking to snowball their top lane here.
Yeah, decent amount. You see a little bit of poke going down, but Odo just kind of letting the wave come towards him. Looks like he's pretty content to let ZIV push in, at least at this stage. ZIV doing a very good job of honestly not tanking any auto attacks. Odo forced to spend those autos on each of those creeps to clear up.
Yeah, actually, as the Rumble side, if you're against an Elise Jayce too, maybe you do want to start Q just because you don't want to let the wave pile too big. In case,
can get dove.
Yeah, like Elise has really easy dive setup. She can tank the tower pretty much indefinitely just because, well, until her last hit and just repel away. So.
Definitely until she dies.
Yeah.
Not
before she's dead.
Significantly longer than any other
Yeah.
champion for sure, outside of maybe Zach or the other aggressive divers potentially. But early push comes in. No, surprisingly, no aggression coming in here from ODOAMNE. It doesn't look like he wants to go for any super aggressive plays quite yet.
And you know, both junglers are looking like they're trying to do a path where they can end up topside, and Mountain did get spotted out. Jankos is clearing bot to top, so I definitely think that he is trying to focus on this Rumble, trying to perhaps help out ODOAMNE, but Mountain as well, he's up here on the top side. He has been spotted out as he was placing a ward in the river and did kind of get caught there, so now it feels like the wave has stalled out a little bit in an awkward spot here for ZIV because he couldn't get the reset. He couldn't get it shoved in. And this is the worst spot you can be in when you try to go for a push and you fail. Now he's just bleeding CS to his minions, killing off his opponent's minions, and he's sitting far
just
up. So
this
is like where you're just like, ooh, can we have a remake real quick?
This is where the Rumble would wish he started E. Just because you can control your wave a little better. Like, if you half shove and the Jayce manages to, like keep his wave right here.
Yeah.
If Elise is in that tri-bush, like, yeah, these range minions won't even crash.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The Rumble has to max range E-farm, basically. For
Is there anything that Mountain can do here to help out? Like, if the jungler comes top, can they just force this in and look to just reset this? Because this does seem to be a pretty terrible position.
And they can do something like that, but at the same time, if your jungler shows that early and has to do that, then you're giving something up elsewhere, right? Yeah. The Elise can maybe go for a gank somewhere else, and this is not like a really gankable lane, right? So if you're trying to go for that reset, to me, that's giving up quite a bit.
Yeah, it'd just be a waste of time, I think,
yeah.
for RekSai. RekSai did ward for him, and he also got top scuttle, so
nice little trade there.
He's giving a bit of support to his Jayce, or to his Rumble here. But yeah, he's exploring the top side, and there's no farm to be found because Elise was just there.
Feels bad.
And Jankos is already on the bottom side too, taking things away, taking the scuttle crab. It looks like they may try to set up for the dive. Odo does have all of his summoners available.
This would be, I think, a very tough dive
spot.
Yeah, the wave was pulling anyway, so it's really not the greatest place for the RekSai to be.
Yeah, there's just no reason for ODOAMNE to ever actually move forward into a trade because he doesn't have to overextend himself for that CS. The wave is pushing to him. He can just wait, sit back, pick up that CS, and that's why top lane is so much about wave management. And I think it's something, especially at lower elos and stuff, people don't necessarily understand, like how to judge which way a wave is pushing and why that's so important. Because if you mess up wave management one time, you can get a massive CS advantage off that. I mean, for you, do you have any tips on kind of how you judge which way a lane is pushing?
Yeah, so basically, if you're the last one to push a tower completely into the lane or into the tower, and like so, they're basically you push the tower in, and then your creeps are dying to their tower. Then your wave or their incoming wave's coming. It'll slow push to you, basically. So yeah, if you're basically first to move away from your, if you get the push lead, you should have the wave in a favorable position for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. So another easy way to think about it is when your wave crashes into theirs, their minions stack up, so they're going to push back, right?
So,
they're
so right here, the
Jayce
should be slow pushing away from him.
Yeah,
Rumble's in a good position to get a fine buy here if he wants to.
Yep.
Is not going to offer the buy quite yet. It's probably just going to push it in before continuing any further. Jankos is on the top side, interestingly enough. Jayce coming back with an additional Doran's Blade as well as the pieces for Hexdrinker, as you predicted, Ziv, looking for that early Zig. Sorry, I just called you Ziv. You're not playing in this game. For that early magic resist item. And once again, I want to bring it back. When can ODOAMNE look to get aggressive? When can ODOAMNE look to press the advantage? Because it has been a very passive lane so far.
I think after he finishes his Hexdrinker, I mean, he can take short trades anyway. They both TP for lane, and he built 2 Dorans. I really don't like, actually, 2 Dorans ever on Jayce. I actually, like, when I play Jayce, I start longsword 3-pot, just because laning's more stable, and I try to take more aggressive trades, like autos on the first wave and stuff, and trading my potions down with the other top laner potions. But yeah, here it seems like he's going for, like, a really long, like, just sit in lane and farm it out type build.
Yeah, it always feels like one of those things where if you're going to invest that heavily in lane, you need to be able to kind of get some sort of advantage, right? You're delaying your item completions, you're delaying your kind of power spikes, if you will, and it's one of those things where Jayce is going to have to kind of get something done, have to earn an advantage, otherwise put himself behind.
Westdoor locked up, potentially knocked out here, does get a decent heal. Mountain is on the way. Are they going to look for the all-in? Flash out. Jankos just going to snap up. So no aggression yet on the top side, but trade some spells there in the mid lane. Curious to see, too, as we move forward. I want to hit some of these Twitter questions. We have an interesting one coming in from David Donaldson, who said, why not Olaf top? We have seen it in the jungle. He says he plays it all the time. Why is David Donaldson's famed Olaf top not good enough for him?
I think its scaling's pretty bad, but as a lane counter to Rumble, it's pretty good. And I think it's good versus Poppy, too. So I don't know if teams have been trying it. I know it was popular in Europe for a little while. And
we do love the Olaf.
Yeah, I think it's good, but it's just like some of the things that some of the top lane champions can contribute right now is just like really disproportionate compared to what an Olaf could contribute. Like, yeah, you have a Kennen or a Rumble team fighting where you just have this Olaf zerging one dude, basically.
I also think part of it is it's like the risk of the champion, at least to me, because Olaf is so strong because you can win these all-ins and stuff in lane and you can just smash someone in the 1v1. And competitive people seem to play so much more passively that they're less willing, I think, to take these risks. And if you're just going to have an Olaf sitting there and trading farm against a Rumble or something, what's the point of bringing the champion, right? Yeah. Like, you have to friggin' smash the Rumble if you're going to bring an Olaf into that lane, in my opinion. So to me, that's probably part of the reason as well.
I'm actually super confused as to like what ZIV's building. He's back for blasting one. I guess he's going for the early.
He's just going Leandry's.
Yeah, it's Leandry's, but yeah, it's just like I don't know why he'd want those components. And it seems like everyone likes building the Seeker's Armguard item into Jayce when they play his matchup, but I guess he's more scared of Elise and Ryze too, so maybe he just wants. Like Leandry's is the best all-around item, I think.
Do you think he could just want the early blasting one and then be going back for the Seekers?
He could be actually, yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually might be what it is. We'll find out soon enough. But Jayce backing here, he is going to lose. Yeah, he's going to lose quite a bit.
He'll probably miss the cannon.
Yeah,
he does manage to get the Hexdrinker, but it's just an interesting back timing overall. Losing a lot, it feels like for no reason. There was no lane pressure there. There was no jungler spotted top side.
And he built the laning items too, so I don't really know.
Like, you have double lifesteal from the Dorans. I don't really think there was any reason that he had to base, and to me that's kind of confusing, especially when you're going to be building 4 lane like you said. So now it's going to be pushing away from him. He's up a few CS, but Rumble probably doesn't really care about that. And so far I think it's been pretty good for ZIV. Obviously ODOAMNE is not doing bad by any means, but I do think that as the Rumble in this situation, you're probably pretty happy.
Yeah, I feel like we expected more out of the Jayce in terms of early game aggression here. Do you think, when you play this matchup, I'm curious, Zig, I keep trying to not call you Ziv, I apologize, it's hard, there's one letter difference, but when you play this matchup, are you usually more aggressive in solo queue? Would you say that this is something that you kind of look to force more trades?
Yeah, I think the Jayce has the range versus melee advantage just early on. I guess, I don't know, like, because he's on, or the Jayce is on red side too, he doesn't really have to be scared of a RekSai level 3 gank with red buff, because if you're blue side, like, the RekSai could just clear his top 3 camps and come top, so sometimes taking those early trades you get punished, but it feels like he had Elise to back him up to early levels. He just really wasn't walking up to attack the Rumble at all.
One thing I will say is that, like, to give ODOAMNE a little credit, is his bot lane is smashing right now, right? Like, his bot lane is doing very well. So I think that you can sometimes play it a little bit more passively when your other lanes are winning. You can kind of just like, oh yeah, okay, they're smashing. I don't really have to do anything. I'm just gonna sit here and farm. But I think especially like his backs didn't really make sense to me. If you're gonna base rate for that Hexdrinker completion and kind of give up lane priority because of it, then I feel like you want to be playing aggressively with that Hexdrinker, right? You want to be using the Hexdrinker shield and trying to go for some sort of null and try to go for something. And he hasn't really been playing aggressive, so it's like early base with a double Dorans plus Hexdrinker. If you're not going to play aggressive, he probably should have gone a different route, right?
Yeah, I feel like right now he should win all-ins versus Rumble, but the Rumble's playing like super defensive because like in carry versus carry matchups, you have to be wary of the jungler. And so if he doesn't have that much information, then yeah, he just has to kind of chill out. And it looks like red team's coming off a reset too, so they don't really know where the Elise is.
Yep.
Really interesting to see the laning pattern happening right now. We pretty much consistently saw ZIV pushing in there for a few levels and Odo just catching the wave under tower, which is kind of, I would say, unexpected. Of course, Rumble with the wave clear edge, but it feels like Jayce should just be able to take control.
Yeah. I mean, there's the other thing I think that ODOAMNE's team has done a really good job helping him with vision. Like, look at all these wards around here, right? There's 3 pinks on the top half of the map from his team, so the river is essentially fully covered. Now deep wards are getting put in here from Jankos as well, so he's being protected. He's kind of being given all these tools to actually play aggressive, and he hasn't really made it happen just yet. I mean, if you don't have vision of like a champion like Lissandra and stuff, obviously you have to respect those roams more, but because he's being tracked, I think that he has the freedom to do a little bit more than he has done.
I mean, it is such diligence of the vision control because you talk about the bottom lane winning and they're continuing to pull ahead in CS, of course, on catching up a little bit, but there's not a whole lot of vision on the bottom side. They've kind of been left to their own devices there, whereas the top side is lit up. 3 pink wards. You've got vision in the enemy jungle, a little bit of it now being cleared out by Mountain, but H2K, while they may not be giving the jungle pressure top side, seem to be very content to use all of their vision there.
So when you're playing top, like scale 1 to 10, how tilted are you when you see Lissandra on the other team? Like, is it frustrating playing against a roaming champion like Lissandra, like the TF and stuff? Like,
it's usually the souls that get me the most, the Aurelian souls. If I see that champion in the game, it's like, yeah, the mid laner's pinging missing, but they can never follow, so it's always just a disadvantage.
When it got hovered, I could just see the haunted look in your eyes. You're like, no, not again.
Is this like is that a permaban champion for you in solo queue, or you just like no Aurelian Soul ever?
It gets banned a lot, yeah. I try to ban it too, but a lot of the mid laners are like right now snowball pretty hard, like Syndra and stuff. Ryze is also really snowballing too, and can also make visits to the top lane.
Yeah. ZIV on the way down. Looks like we could see the fight set up, but Vander going to whip a little bit there. westdoor in trouble.
Oh God, that was bad.
Flash QW, didn't press R even though he was in range. It's pretty unlucky.
That is very unlucky if you're westdoor's teammates.
Yeah. And the Rumble walked, it looks like.
Yeah.
So they committed really hard for that dragon. I don't know if he'll TP for the tower. I think he has to.
He has to, I think, because it'll give up too much damage on the turret, and that now means that ODOAMNE has TP advantage. So
yeah. So he has a 5-minute win to make something happen. 4-minute, 15-second maybe.
Oh, and he's going to immediately TP bot lane. They're going to be going for something.
Oh, big fight going in. Forgiven trying to get a little aggressive here, but Odo is on the backside. He's though. No tier to back him up, and he's trying to get a little bit more, but he's honestly just completely out of mana. Mountain's going to go down. First blood, but H2K have to back off. No man on that
Not
Jayce.
a great TP there, actually. I think it was overforced. It looks like they would have got that kill anyway. So he just wanted to help, but yeah, I think he should have got a base in beforehand if he was just going to run out of mana.
Yeah.
And he just squandered his TP advantage, and now ZIV has more damage than him anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they did get first blood. Obviously, he didn't really participate, but he kind of zoned people off.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It's just a trade. I think as a top laner, you have to be really cautious of like using your TP just like that, I guess. But.
It's also, I feel like sometimes it's one of those situations where the team is like really calling for things. Like, how do you deal with that kind of thing? Because, you know, my impression of a situation like that is, okay, you know, ODOAMNE calls, there's no TP on ZIV, right? They know that they have an advantage bot side, and then the team is probably immediately calling for that TP, seeing that someone's kind of out of position.
Yeah.
You know, how do you guys deal with that on your team? Is that something where you would be the one to just kind of say, no, I won't go?
Yeah, it depends on the situation. Like here, I might not have had the foresight to judge like how that situation would have gone, but yeah, usually the better top laners, you'll see they try not to throw away their advantages like by TPing to a situation where they're not needed. Yeah, if someone's calling it desperately, then usually, the call, like it's just follow the call type thing. Like if I don't TP and then we go over the footage after game and it turns out that it was a good situation to TP in, I'll get flamed for it or something like that. So.
Sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, so.
The big question for me is, do you really have the time to evaluate that situation when it comes to TPs, or do you just look for a ward, click TP, and just trust your team?
Well, yeah, TP is like 4 seconds now too, and because he had the wave pushed in, like he killed the cannon and everything. I think he had a lot more time.
Mountain has flash.
Oh no, flash in, ult to guarantee him out. He's looking for a way back. Jankos does show up. He's trying to heal up, does have the Maw proc. It looks like he's going to get one. Going to try to make it out of here. And ODOAMNE makes it out with his life. westdoor looking for a bit more. Looks like maybe the 1-for-1 trade. Jankos, here comes the rest of the team. Oh no, ODOAMNE, are you going to get out? Oh, Prey Seeker over the wall for the sweet Lissandra double kill.
That was overall 2 for 2. I think, yeah, that's itemization at work actually. His first item Maw, I mean, meant he was like really not killable by the Rumble.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty good for them when you consider that it's actually westdoor's TP and stuff as well. So it's quite a lot invested up top, and it was the even trade. But it does start off so poorly for ODOAMNE, and he whiffed his combo, and then they just see the opportunity to all in. And this was really smart to me, like being able to, obviously it's not the biggest thing, but flashing towards his jungler, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times you see people make that mistake where they're just like, I gotta get to the turret, I gotta get to the turret, right? And he actually had the foresight to group up with his team, and I think that's what helped to turn this. So had he run straight to his turret, I think he definitely dies and they don't get any trade kills. So I think that was pretty well played once he put himself in that situation. But I also do think he kind of needlessly took a massive amount of poke before that all-in even started.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting spot to be, of course. Good to have the foresight, even if the initial play was a little bit sloppy. I want to hit on a Twitter question real quick.
Oh, and they got first turret blood.
Oh. Nice place to be then. Extra gold going over. SP91 asks, how do you feel about the impact of jungle in top lane in Season 6 and how it shapes picks and play styles? So I think both of you play a decent amount of top lane. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I play a fair bit of jungle too. I actually think it it shapes picks a lot. At least I'm not talking about competitive, but as far as like solo queue, like I will sometimes change my picks and stuff based on what the jungle is playing, or if I'm playing jungle, like picking a really aggressive jungler if you see a top lane that's like very diveable or very abusable. I think situations like that are really good, or for me, like I like playing Kayle, right? And if they're playing Elise or something, I'm not playing Kayle, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's situations like that where like, oh, you know, oh, they have such and such, he's just going to power farm, I can play more aggressively or this or that. So at least that's my opinion on it.
As far as competitive goes, I think it's just people are straying or leaning towards more like stable top laners, I guess, that can kind of farm from a range, or like can't get set too far behind, like can kind of evade ganks a little bit. Like Rumble has a good kit for just hard shoving a wave really fast, so even if he is gankable most of the game, it feels like he can control his wave to the point where he's not really gankable most of the game. So it's, yeah, I think it definitely does, like the jungle pick that gets picked influences what champion I'm playing. Like I want a good damage balance usually, so mix of AP and AD is good. And
yeah, that's a big part as well. You know, you don't want 3 AP top side. You don't want like AP top, AP jungle, AP mid.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, usually you just gotta be careful. Like you always have to, as a top laner, you're pretty much always thinking like, where could this jungler be? Is he trying to screw my game up? Like, is he on my side of the map? Where's my jungler? Can he back me up? Like, and then like what other people can come to my lane too? Is there support missing, mid missing? Because you're just in a solo lane. Like in bot lane, it's a little different. You have 4 summoners to kind of bail you out. But top lane, you have to take this useless summoner that is teleport, and you only have your flash to save your booty, and sometimes it's not enough.
The useless summoner that is teleport. Someone's taken from the Book of Soaz here. Not happy to see it.
I like teleport, and it like stabilizes a lot of lanes. You know, it lets you like if someone takes ignite and they don't kill you, then you're gonna get a perfect base, like a free buy basically, and you can be up pots or up an item on them. But yeah, like they just nerf TP, and it's still like a must take on top lane just because of how the lane works. You're a solo player, and the lane's so far to walk back to that.
Before the nerfs and stuff to Shen and whatnot, that's one of the things I thought was kind of interesting about when they changed TP. Like by proxy, you know, Tahm Kench and Shen got better because their ultimates were faster, right? So
Gangplank is like a must pick because it's like, oh, you just contribute this R spell to the fight, and
without your super long TP.
Yeah, you just use every TP for lane. Like you get screwed up by every laner 1v1, but you got that first TP to lane.
You're scaling, doesn't matter.
It's like they TP'd bottom, but I pressed R.
Oh, and 6? Scaling. It's fine.
I mean, interesting to see. I want to talk briefly about you talked about full AP on the top side. Now, RekSai, not a huge source of damage at this point, but since they do have the Lissandra and the Rumble, what are your thoughts on the way ODOAMNE is itemizing right now? Early prioritization on the mod and the Merc treads as well.
Yeah, the mod's just like, you're always going to win split push war versus Rumble now. Rumble doesn't even, like, he didn't build towards Zanya's, or he doesn't have the Seekers either, so if they ever 1v1, like, the Jayce wins by far just because he gets that huge shield.
Nice flash blown out there in the end on rough spot to be. And honestly, it's interesting that Odo is just kind of taken up home in the mid lane here, and Ryu now set to roam.
Yeah, he kind of screwed up his top wave. It just looks like it's, not farmable. I don't know the situation that happened before that, but
yeah, it's been like that for a long time. He based and then kind of went mid a long time ago, and the wave was already slow pushing, so ZIV was able to kind of let this go, and he's actually going to be TPing in here right by ODOAMNE, and they want to try to fight for this dragon.
It's going to be interesting to see. Mountain makes his way out, and at the end of the day, Jankos still manages to secure it. ZIV in trouble, and before Ryze goes wide, he's waiting for the engage there. Snare is going to go in, but westdoor trying to catch ODOAMNE sleeping.
Super messy. I don't know what happened there.
H2K just doesn't even need to fight now. I mean, they get the dragon, and ZIV uses both summoners and gets absolutely nothing. That TP was like super late. The dragon was already going down, and he TP'd in besides Odo. So Odo actually played that super well because he not only stayed out of range of the engage from westdoor, he's able to force out the flash pretty much solo because his team is coming over. And I think he played that really well, and it's starting to open up quite an advantage for himself. He's over 1,000 gold up. His team has the double Drakes, and he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, he should be able to get split push priority compared to the Rumble now. So if H2K wants like a basically, they just send him in a side lane to match the Rumble.
Oh, here comes Mountain though.
Yeah.
Caught out again.
Flash? He does.
He's gonna wait for it. Waits for the proc. In comes the ultimate. Looks for the side step. Still goes down. Jankos is there. But once again, flashing towards the jungler doesn't save him.
They didn't have a single ward. I mean, he just blindly walked up into the jungle. There was not even a ward placed in his opponent's jungle. Walks through, just shoots a shock blast, and he just goes in and tries to shove it. So, I mean, he had a really nice play of it down by mid lane, and then kind of just super threw it away. And his team is doing well, and they're up a lot of gold. But that was like, there's been some pretty poor individual plays as far as just like, you have no vision. You're not really thinking about that at all.
It feels like shaky decision making.
Yeah, he needs to wait for Elise to come over and help him push that in.
The Elise was actually close, but yeah, I think
melee
Q there is just suicide. It's like the RekSai just came over and killed him. So yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, we're looking at this matchup, and ODOAMNE's just been making mistakes here.
Look at the vision, right? Elise is coming. What are you doing? Just wait 10 seconds. And
you don't have any mana.
Yeah, he has no mana. He's trying to push in. I get that he's like, it's one of those situations where he's probably frustrated about the way that the wave ended up last time, and it's slow push, and he lost like a lot of minions off that. So he wanted to get shoved in. He wanted to bounce, right? But Jankos is coming up. It's not like Jankos is saying, nah, I'm not going to help you. He's already there. He's walking. So that was just like really impatient.
It's just a random death. Like that stuff can get cut down on pretty easily. It's one decision. And
I mean, not a great place to be, but of course the team across the board still doing relatively well for H2K. 4K in the lead. They've got the Cloud. They've got the Infernal. Jayce now working towards the Youmuu's Ghostblade as well. And Odo now he lives on the bottom side of the map. They've given him enough chances on the top side. Made too many mistakes. They're sending him down bot.
He has teleport advantage over the Rumble now, and just in the straight 1v1, pure 1v1, he should be able to beat the Rumble up because he has Maw, like defensive boots too. And
I do feel like they're lacking vision pretty heavily on the bot side though for him to be split pushing. And until people show, he has to play this like pretty close to the chest. He has to play it pretty safe. You know, how is that? Like, how do you guys work that for your team around when you have split push advantage? How do you go about, you know, requesting vision on that side of the map or whatever? Is it something where you ask for it, or they just say they're going to do it, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think like some of the games that we played in LCS this year, we were pretty bad at it, and I was like playing too scared. But I usually just have to wait for information on the other side of the map. Like, just wait for more people to show up, or wait for your team to group up. And like, if they're 4 on top inner, then it's pretty. And like they find 4 other people too. It's pretty easy to decipher your find in that 1v1. But yeah, usually you just have to play it slow, and then like use your waves for vision, and then slowly walk in the jungle and get more vision down.
So you don't feel like you do need wards necessarily on bot side. Like obviously it is a luxury, but you feel like you can just play it safe enough. To just kind of wait forever to show up, basically.
The way my team does it, sometimes is they just want me to ward for myself, like buy a pink and use your yellow, and like just get some wards for yourself.
Just get a sight stone. It's only 100 gold. What are you doing?
It looks like
like that's what Odo has right now too.
Yeah,
actually.
he's got the pink ward. He's got a ward of his own. It looks like H2K are kind of leaving him to his own devices here.
I like putting my pink closer to the middle of the map though, because it gives you more like advanced warning, I guess, if someone comes, or in
even try like this one is not really protecting him at all. Like I feel like if he put his pink ward in the try, that's at least something. Like for me, while I'm kind of playing these sort of things, I would at least try to put it further up, pink in the try, like a yellow ward a little bit deeper in. I also really love at least for solo queue when you can kind of get if you look up by red buff, the bush below that red buff, if you can get the pink in that left brush right there on the screen, that's a brush that like it gives you a lot of information, right?
And
like
it rarely gets cleared too. That's one of the best cheese pinks.
That's my favorite spot. I feel like you're like, oh, I got my pink for the game. I put it there, and now I don't have to buy another.
Yeah, when it stays on the map for 15 minutes, you know it's a value buy.
Yeah,
for sure.
And what's hilarious is I feel like this comes up all the time in casting, and pro players talk about this, and players talk about this, and yet the brush still never gets checked.
Yeah.
But like every time, it's still the brush that gets checked the least often.
Habits.
It's just, and also I just feel like it's inconvenient so often when it comes to jungle pathing because it is out of your way.
That's why you have to just get in the habit of just moving everywhere that you're going. Because it's really funny to me when I see people walk over a pink ward and they don't start attacking it. Just because if you just move, your character automatically does it for you.
Yeah. Little things like that, of course, potentially in trouble. Ryu, honestly having a pretty solid performance this game, is up against westdoor, a player not quite as strong in the laning phase, but 2-0 thus far and a 30 CS lead.
I also think that, you know, Forgiven being in the place that he's in right now, like hitting his second item, already has his QSS, he's going to be very strong, and I think it's going to be tough for AHQ to kind of be able to get on him and take him out, because you can kind of naturally build pretty heavily to the MR side of things. You have the QSS, and it makes it a lot harder to take him out, even just for the magic resist, but either way.
Interesting place to be. He's ahead. He gets that item essentially for free from the gold lead that the team has built. 5K, 26 minutes in. Baron soon to be on the table. Now, what are each of the roles here from the top laners? Is it ODOAMNE's job to just keep applying this pressure? What does ZIV need to do if it comes down to dancing around the Baron and looking to take that?
Yeah, I feel like ODOAMNE should be doing more to kind of like apply some pressure to the Rumble. Okay, it looks like he's soloing Dragon. That's not so bad. But it feels like he's just kind of pushing his wave and then dipping. And it feels like he could be applying more pressure with his item build and just with the information that his 4 can get for him. For whatever, I also really don't like not having Cleaver on Jayce. It makes him more like the cooldown reduction is a really big stat. It makes him more tanky, and then in a prolonged trade with anyone who has armor, it's probably the most effective at like doing the most damage.
Especially because it's so easy to get it stacked up. Even with just your W and range form, you can like almost like insta stack.
Yeah, you have like so many ways just to apply the stacks, but you have 2 full sets of skills, and it makes you faster too.
Yeah.
I actually always take Storm Raiders on Jayce too. It's like a really heavy snowballing mastery. I'm not sure. Like I take it in competitive too when we
It's pretty
scrim.
fun.
But yeah, like I've had people tell me it's bad, and
I recommend it.
I love it. Yeah, like you land a long combo, like QE combo on them in range form, and you get a Storm Raiders proc. Or you just open on them like by melee queuing their range creep, and you E them back, you get a Storm Raiders proc. And then you can line yourself up for your range combo. So
I like it. A mix-up if you're looking for something new to pick up as far as masteries go.
You know what else is hype? Storm Raiders Nocturne. That's super fun.
yeah.
We'll save it for the jungle stream. The Storm Raiders Nocturne, alt
Hey,
in, auto once.
why can't you bring it to the top lane? No reason. Okay, there's maybe some reasons, but
Probably
maybe
pretty,
a couple reasons.
pretty good
but
ones.
Don't play the top lane.
While we see H2K kind of trying to set up for the Baron, I want to hit a few of these Twitter questions. We might have to hold that thought because Jankos is caught out. Jankos is knocked out.
Does he cancel that TP? Oh, guess not.
Oh, Odo goes in. A lot of damage here. Rumble Ult goes down on the backside. Forgiven's doing his best, but the Baron may be an ally. Not going to get procced by the Karma Q there. H2K grouping up. ZIV caught out. ZIV getting popped.
And they can chase. They have the Ryze ulti. This is pretty sick.
Oh my
god.
Oh, but Mountain trying to get the knock up. There goes the combo from Vander. H2K cleaning house. Mountain knocked out of the tunnel. Not going to get the animation cancel there. Trying to play keep away. Vander hungry for a little bit more blood. In comes the Caitlyn ult, but that man has the perfect network set up to escape.
They really
Beautiful
wanted
fight.
to kill the RekSai there because that would pretty much make sure that they could secure Baron. Their jungler's dead, so they have no smite, but it looks like they might go for it anyway.
I think with Mountain having no flash, you can probably zone him out pretty easily and stuff. It's going to be really tough for him to get in there, and they are clearing out, especially with Alistar, who can kind of knock you back, but they're low HP. We'll see if anything can happen, and Albis is here.
Outside. Low health. May try to steal it.
Oh my god!
That's not what you want. Albis
This game's
makes
so
the hero
messy.
play.
Oh my god.
No.
That's a morale crusher.
That is such a tilter. That's actually insane. The support Karma just wanders in, casually monster Qs the Baron and steals it. How does no one stand in front of him? Like, why is Vander not knocking him away? Like, why are they not timing a shock blast to last hit it? Like, there's actually a million different things they could have done there.
There are a lot of questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
I don't even.
I don't even get how that fight started though. It's like they were trying to two-man the Baron, just test the waters, see if they had vision or whatever. But then a all-out brawl just started. Like people just started TPing in after the Elise died, and then they just fought, and then they won.
Yeah.
And then they had a 4v2,
Oh,
had
Vander
position on
wants
the
him.
Baron, and yeah, to lose that Baron must like really actually suck for them.
And I'm just going to bring us some EU history here. The sad part about H2K is that while they make excellent plays to get ahead in the early game, their mid to late game decision making has been consistently poor. And I thought it might change on the world stage, but at least in this game, it looks like they're just taking some big, huge risks.
The worst part about it is they were actually in a position to basically take Baron and probably like seal the game with that Baron push, right?
Yeah.
They're like 5k gold up. You get Baron with friggin' Caitlyn and Jayce, and you could just close that game. Like you can
Yeah.
siege up so easily, right? Like you can maybe not end the game with that, but get an advantage that's big enough, just take over. And Friggin actually played this fight really well. He's kind of staying around on the edge, and a really good job by him. But I mean, they win the fight so heavily, so one-sided. I think the Ryze ult was really cool. Pretty nice fight, but just honestly, the amount of times I've seen Barons given away for no reason at Worlds is like pretty unacceptable for like this tier of play. Like Rox had multiple games that they won off of Barons that Peanut had no business stealing.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the Albis Nox Luna
this.
game, right? It's the same story.
Watch
So many-
Vander. What is Vander doing?
Just trying to
Defy
find the
Vander.
RekSai, I guess.
Yeah,
Just-
I guess, but
Oh, no. Not like that. Forgiven was trying to peel off too. He was like, yeah, we got this Baron in the bag, and just
mean-
the Karma Q.
Vander's trying to stop. I understand he wants to stop the RekSai, but at the same time, they had wards. The RekSai was clearing mid wave. He was so
Yeah.
far away. They know that he can't get there
And-
in time. Just push away the support. Like, I mean, I know it's like there's some luck involved there, obviously, from Albis to steal that as like a no AP karma, but still, it just seems like people don't do their due diligence a lot of these times.
Yeah.
Honestly, just disrespectful play coming in from H2K. I guess we've been using that term a little bit too much, but just not really. There's no way to say it. Not respecting their opponents. at all. It was disrespectful.
Underestimating.
Underestimating.
I mean, they're basically they're going for the percentage play. They're like, okay, this is super rare. It's not going to happen, right? But then it happens. So you always have to just like respect the randomness, man. If it can happen, it will happen. And losing Barons like that can be pretty heartbreaking, especially when it's like, at least if it's a smite steal, you're like, it was 50-50. That's okay. Yeah. This one's like, ooh.
Is that really, out of curiosity, is that really your attitude when someone smite steals? You're like, it's okay, it's a 50-50? Because I still lose my mind over those moments.
I mean, I'm a little bit sad, but I also think that because I play jungle a lot and it's happened to me and stuff, like you understand how it can happen. Like having a Baron stolen feels really bad as a team, right? Period. But if a jungler steals it and your team was not zoning them out or stopping them whatsoever, it's not just the jungler's fault, right? Like it's the whole team. Like you have to stop the jungler from getting in position and going for that smite.
Especially if you have the tools to do so, like a pop,
like an Alistar.
Here comes a big fight though. Rumble all does go down, and Vander is right in the middle of it, but the rest of H2K manages to make it out. Shock blast on the west door, getting in a little aggressive. No Storm Raider surge proc. Sonya's comes out. Spider goes up.
He buys a lot of time.
Westdoor actually going over the wall, looks for the engage, does ult himself. Vander, no tools left. Odo is on the backside, and ZIV doing a lot of damage. If he looks his way in, is doing so much burst. Ryze ult comes in, team gonna get hand delivered. Now looking to get aggressive, Forgiven runs forward. Ryu running it in, ult comes out. What has he got? Nothing left. I mean,
these fights are happening so randomly. It's literally like people are within range of each other and they're deciding to fight over something. And I feel like the type of fight that H2K should be like making is just like, we group up siege, we poke you, you're a bit low. Okay, now we can pull the trigger with Alistar.
I think it's one of those things where both these teams, you talked about H2K struggling late game. AHQ has struggled to close games as well. And it's kind of one of those situations where if you don't know exactly what you should do or where you should be going, you can kind of end up in situations where, like, I guess we're going to fight. Like, but either way, really good for H2K. They get the inhibitor, they get the inhibitor turret. They're going to get the Infernal as well. Double Infernal over your opponents is so massive because, if you trade that, you're dead even. Instead, they're 16% ADAP up. They're 4 dragons up. And this puts AHQ in one of those horrible positions where you essentially have to deny Elder just so your opponents don't get it. But you taking Elder gives you very little because they don't have a single dragon, right? Like, the true damage burn sucks. And if you give up that to a poke comp, oh, God. Like,
This is not
disaster.
It just feels so terrifying. And I mean, it starts out, we look at the top lane.
It's Bloodthirster, sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing I actually want to poke or hit on right quick is the Bloodthirster itemization coming out versus the Black Cleaver here for ODOAMNE. What are your thoughts on this itemization?
Yeah, I really don't like it. I think he's kind of built to split push, but then when he was in the split push situation, he didn't try to push his advantage at all. Like, he wasn't taking any trades on Rumble. He was letting him clear the wave pretty freely and not like with Bloodthirster, you can pretty much take any dumb trade you want, like be down HP, and then the next wave you'll be full HP again. Yeah. So maybe we'll see some of him doing that now. Like he has a pretty big wave, and he is in side lane. So.
Yeah, I do think the one thing obviously is if he actually fights Rumble one-on-one, it feels like almost impossible to lose with this sort of itemization when you have the Maw plus the Bloodthirster. I think that he has a super big advantage in that 1v1, but he obviously has to make that work, right? He has to be able to put those items to use, otherwise they become somewhat wasted. Similarly to how we were talking about if you go double Dorans and stuff in lane, you need to kind of play that aggressively and get some sort of an advantage. But
I feel like he could be doing a lot more to like ward for himself and stuff too. But he like just peeked his head in the jungle, put a crap ward down for himself. Like that really doesn't show that much. And then he's just like playing max range. Like, until he finds the enemy jungler, I guess, or sees him on the map, or his team gets him more information, I guess he can play this.
Do you think it's a situation where he's just like building more defensively because his team's doing so well? Because he has a fed Ryze, because he has a fed Caitlyn, he's just saying like, hey, I don't actually need to have like optimal DPS, I just need to stay alive? Because I do think that's kind of true in this situation.
Yeah, I think, he's like a role player, I guess. Like in his split push war, he should just be pretty much unpushable out of lane with those 2 items versus the Rumble. And then in teamfight 2, as long as he doesn't randomly die to the Sivir, like he's itemized really well for the solos. But well, that's 1E. That's a lot of damage.
Decent trades coming in. Now looking as H2K starts to set up the split push, Baron next. Baron is a potential option on the table, and I want to hit one of our Twitter questions coming in. Zuldak asks, how does playing a range versus melee champion affect where and when you TP to make a play from the top side?
Yeah, so for the Jayce side, his TPs generally can't really be flank TPs unless they're like really, really long flanks and the enemy team can't spot him, because if he's TPing to the middle of the fight, the enemy team can just close on him, and he's pretty vulnerable as just like he's not a tank. It's basically just an AD carry. And for the Rumble, he can pretty much TP anywhere after he has Anya's, as long as he gets his spells down. he will contribute to a team fight.
Right now, it's not even about the Jayce. It's about the slow, long demise of westdoor, and interestingly, Forgiven.
Not a, well, I guess that is kind of a bad trade overall.
Oh, ODOAMNE. We talked about the 1v1. Unfortunately, it's the 3v1 he's walking into. Now backing off, headed back to bot to push as the rest of H2K actually collapses on the Baron here.
Yeah, they just found each other rotating, so I guess he found himself in a 1v3. He had to burn flash. All these fights seem super random. I guess that was a fight that happened because of fog.
Oh God. What? I can't believe ZIV flashed there.
He has no Zhonya's, keep in mind.
He has no Zhonya's, but I mean, ODOAMNE is almost He's under tower, and ZIV, does he have Equalizer? He does. He has Equalizer. I don't see how you die in that situation when ODOAMNE just jumps on you. That is confusing.
So one thing that I think we've seen consistently across this game is that both of these top laners are playing pretty scared.
They seem super jumpy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's world pressure, right? You're playing on a big stage. There is the crowd you can constantly hear, right? And both these teams are kind of on the cusp where everyone's like, oh yeah, EDG's going to make it out. Who's going to make it out here? So there's a lot riding on this game, and I think we are definitely seeing some nerves here.
Yeah. So they just burned the jungler down. They should have a free Baron. They play this right.
Unless Karma steals it again.
Yeah.
Karma on the way, hungry for Baron steals, but it does look like H2K are going to be able to secure this one. We'll set up for what they can take with that Baron buff. I want to hit another Twitter question here. With the rise of playmaking top laners, says By Night, where are Jax, Fiora, and Yasuo picks?
Yeah, I think if you want to avoid team fight, like split pushers are good, but for some reason, none of these Worlds teams seem to be prioritizing any split pushers at all. I guess it's just too easy to make team fights happen with Rumble and Kennen and Alistar and all this stuff, like Ryze TP and stuff like that. So
that's what it feels like a lot to me. Is those champions take too long to kind of get online, whereas Rumble hits level 6. You don't even really need any particular items, and you can still get in there. And like Kennen with a proto belt, for example, can have massive impact, whereas Fiora needs a lot of time in the side lanes and stuff. And I also think one thing that kind of did push Yasuo away, we saw Impact play it in NA playoffs, but the fact that the Yasuo changes where you kind of have to build crit, you can't do that. You know, the Frozen Mallet and the Triforce and those kind of builds anymore. Frozen Force or whatever you want to call it. Those kind of builds, I think, were easier to get away with because I felt like he kind of got stronger earlier. Whereas now, since you have to kind of go the IE route, it takes even longer, I feel like, to get online. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, actually, I think most Yasuo still rush PD, so the nerfs weren't too big, but it's just the style of laning that some of those top laners have. Like, and I really, I mean, I didn't really agree with a lot of the World's priority on Irelia too, because it feels like her laning patterns are pretty like readable, I guess. Like, you know, she just wants to all in you all the time, pretty much. Like, if there's a low creep, she might Q to it, so you can bait out ganks pretty easy. But most of the top laners that people are like leaning towards are just really stable. Like, they can stay in lane for a really long time. They have good wave clear. They have good like 1v1 pressure, so that the other top laner can't really like get a big lead or push the wave on them all the time. Like the Jayce, Rumble, Kennens, basically, they can all trade really well 1v1, and then like Jayce, Rumble, they all have like a way to get away from ganks too, it seems like.
Yeah. And ODOAMNE grabbing himself GA, so even more defensive like we talked about. He's obviously just really trying to stay alive, and I think their siege is pretty sick with the Baron, with the Caitlyn and the Jayce, the trap line, Alistar for disengage. They have a lot going for them here, and it's probably going to be pretty damn tough for HQ to really kind of hold on. And you know, if you're ZIV in this situation, what are you kind of looking for? He does just finish his death cap, so he's going to be really strong, like as far as item completions. Do you think that he can try to look for a fight?
Yeah, I think he's just mostly looking for a setup from the other picks, or like the team as a whole has to press the go button. Like Sivir, Karma, they just run at them, but it's like nothing.
There they go.
Oh, westdoor wants to go. Oh, that is the worst possible thing that could have happened there. Westdoor gets popped before anything can happen. It's a similar story. They do trade Ryze back.
Ryu, though.
Wait, was that like a...
That was just Equalizer. Ryu was just sitting in the Rumble Vault for the whole time.
I mean, it's got a 1.5 total scaling AP ratio, so if you sit there long enough, you are going to die.
Well, this might be game here. HQ solos both die. Sivir's probably too scared to walk up because she's so low range.
I mean, we had more Twitter questions. I apologize to everyone else who asked questions, because honestly, H2K just clean it up. There's no time left to ask questions because they are too busy ending the game.
I actually felt so sloppy from both sides. Like, all the fights I have were just super random. My coaches would actually yell at me if stuff like that happened in a sprint. Like, they watched the footage and they're like, wait, what are you guys fighting for? And it just felt like nothing a lot of the time, and then H2K just fought better. So
yeah, and maybe not the cleanest play, but at the end of the day, H2K still find the win. We're going to have to see how both these teams advance later in the day, because of course that's going to be a big question. Can they clean it up, or is it going to be the story of scared top laners, the stories of karma stealing Baron, things that just shouldn't happen seem to be happening in this game.
It was a bit of a wonky game. I think that part of it is this was not a game about either of the top laners really, right? And for ODOAMNE, it kind of makes a little bit more sense like how he was. He had some bad plays, right, where he was pushing up in bad spots and he's getting killed and stuff. But as far as like defensive build and playing more passively and kind of playing scared in the side lanes, I think for ODOAMNE it made more sense because his team had an advantage around the rest of the map. And if your team's already winning, you don't have to be a playmaker. You can kind of just exist and like push out waves, do some basic things, and you'll probably eventually win, and that's kind of what happened for them.
And to be fair, he also got one good flank off in that bottom side river fight, did manage to do a decent chunk of damage, but of course in those final fights, I mean, they popped westdoor before westdoor could do anything, used the Ryze ult to threaten off, but it wasn't the story of the top laners.
No.
And at the end of the day, you got to feel for ZIV. He did have a pretty decent impact on Rumble in a few of those fights, but it was just too little too late when it came down to it. Curious though, as we kind of wait to move forward here, what were your thoughts on it? How could this matchup change? What really needed to change for AHQ to find a win if they wanted to play around the top side?
I don't know. There just wasn't that much fighting. So like maybe RekSai can come up early and flank. I guess the one time RekSai came up, like he went through the Elise's top side. All of her camps were clear. So I guess like Jayce probably ODOAMNE knew that, and then he just spotted him, and so nothing happened. Like I feel like Rumble probably has to manage his wave a little better to set up for ganks from the RekSai, and yeah, that's about it. Like if you want to play around top lane, you can't just have your lane perpetually like a little past river because the Jayce is just ungankable all over the game.
Yeah, I mean his wave management wasn't great early, but I also think inversely on the other side, I do think that with Elise and Jayce, especially when you're building for lane, you can be more aggressive and shove in and try to look for dives on the Rumble and stuff potentially, or at least try to threaten them, get equalizer out, and then kind of go for things like that. But for me, Rumble is more of one of those champions where it's like, yes, you can get ganks and get ahead like that, but it more oftentimes relies on you responding well to something rather than you initiating something. Like if you look at how Impact got ahead, well, people try to dove him and he kills them both, right? And then you have a really good TP and you win fights at Dragon and stuff. Like to me, Rumble's one of those champions more where you get your edges reacting to things really well, and Jayce is more of a champion where I think you can kind of be more proactive and kind of create advantages.
Yeah, I think from HQ side, the only other way they could get a lead from the Rumble is like he just TPs to a bot fight or to a drag fight, gets a good flank. So I don't know. I just would have liked to see more fighting between the two because it felt like they're all like, I mean, ZIV wasn't really building defensively, but ODOAMNE definitely was. Like he first item mod had double door in, and then just didn't really make any trades in lane. So it was like, it's just kind of like they're just playing scared, I guess. I don't know. He just wants to like, the team must be communicating that the bot side's doing really well, like as you said. So yeah.
At the end of the day, not nearly enough fighting. We want more here on the Player Extreme, and we may get it. Pulse, Frostgurn, and Stress will take us to the bottom lane for the matchup between Forgiven and Def. Thanks for joining us. For now, we'll pass you back to the mainstream for a breakdown of that game at the analyst desk.